Hi there, ladies and gents. Today I want to talk about spawn rooms and how their design affects the game. Now, day in and day out, fights in Planetside 2 revolve around spawn points. Now, your attacking force will fail without a sunderer or a spawn beacon against any kind of decent defenders. Now, the spawn building itself has gone through lots of changes since beta. We've seen it being made more defensible. We've seen it being given larger windows, larger doorways to allow people to fire out of it and kill enemies that are around it. Yet, spawn camping is still a vital part of the game. It's vital for any kind of successful capture if you're, well, in a general day-to-day running, unless you've got a really good squad. And the large facilities also have a unique mechanic in that they have spawn control units that you can kill to allow the attackers to enter the spawn rooms and flush them all out, forcing the defenders to go elsewhere. But the other smaller bases, like the towers, the outposts, those kind of things, they don't have that mechanic at all. Now, in my eyes, there's many problems with spawn camping. For one, if you're doing the spawn camping, it's unrewarding and boring because it's way too easy to get kills, as you'll see in this video. If you're on the other end of the stick and you're being camped inside your spawn building, well, yeah, that's not fun either. You can either like it and lump it, or try and get some kills by shooting out of the windows and doorways, which is, again, unrewarding. Or you can spawn elsewhere where there might not be a fight. So, not great. And we see spawn camping happening far too often. We see it whenever the attacking force is even slightly larger, like 10% larger. Quite often it happens where you get the attackers just rolling up to the spawn building and camping it. You also get some base designs which are not perfectly designed to stop it at all. If you look at the base that I'm attacking now, I can drive my lightning up, as you'll see in a minute or two, right up to the spawn building and just get a bunch of kills out of it, because it's that easy. There shouldn't be a way to do that with ground vehicles. You should not be able to get anywhere near the spawn building to just be able to fire anti-infantry shells on it. It's just too easy. And I know Amrish is getting overhauled to stop that. So, those are my problems. Now let's see what the devs are currently doing to prevent spawn camping. Now, the devs have three main methods that they've been using to try and prevent spawn camping. I mean, we've seen that the spawn rooms itself has been overhauled to give you wider firing ranges and all kinds of things. But the main things that they've done since release has been, one, they've implemented transport tunnels, which allow you to, particularly at amp stations and tech plants, move yourselves around the base very quickly to points. I mean, if you think about the amp station, you can go directly towards the SCU, or you can get brought up on one of the walls around the main building shield generators, which gives the defenders a lot of options for places to go. And this is okay, however, in my eyes, it's not great, because quite often you get brought up onto the underside of a sunderer if it's anywhere that's inside a tech plant, for example, which is not ideal because, well, you just get killed instantly, or you come up into a firing squad, which is not great. I also don't particularly like the amp station ones where you come up next to the main building shield generators, because that's too hard for attacking forces, particularly small attacking forces, to stay on top of, and quite often you're just bouncing from side to side to side to side to try and gain access to that main building, which is not fantastic in my eyes. But if you're attacking with, say, a single squad, you've got to leave 2 or 3 people on each one. It dilutes the force down too much, and it becomes irritating. The devs have also got teleporters, which lead to shielded rooms, and this is usually on the smaller of the bases, the outposts, where it takes you around the base, quite often to a building on the other side of the base. And this isn't ideal because it makes it harder for, again, small forces to attack successfully a base, because your sunderers are likely to get destroyed, as the defenders, if they're at all thinking about what they're doing, they'll just teleport into the other side of the base where your sunderer is, past all your troops that are trying to, well, camp the spawn room, because that's what they need to do, or sit on the point, because that's what they also need to do, and they'll just run out, drop a couple of mines or C4 under your sunderer and take it down, which isn't fantastic, because that means that you've got no, well, you're beaten, you've got to fall back. So that's the second thing. The third thing is that if you look at Esamir in particular, they whacked those giant walls up around all the bases to stop ground vehicles from being able to do any spawn camping whatsoever, and also really play any kind of influence on the ground fight at all anywhere near a base, because the defenders can just sit inside and wait for you to come in as infantry, and then they can potentially just camp you as you come in, which again is not ideal. So, and a lot of people are really against the Esamir walls for various reasons, but the main one is that it completely removes ground vehicles from the fights around bases whatsoever, let alone the spawn point. Removing them from the spawn point is good, but the rest of it, not so. So then, what would I like to see? In my eyes, the current solutions are not fantastic. They're band-aid solutions at best. I want to see a permanent change to the way bases and facilities work, and are designed to allow the fights to simply be a lot more interesting, more balanced and more fun. Now if you think about the original game Planetside, I know a lot of us veterans, we go back to it and they see that it's the be-all and end-all of balance and all the rest of it, when obviously that's complete crap. Because if you go back and you look at the original Planetside, there were horrible, well, it was stairway camping. Stairway camping was literally just awful, especially with the netcode for the original game and the amount of spam of plasma and frag grenades and everything else. And what happened with that is that the spawn rooms were nestled inside of bases, which meant that the attackers had to fight their way through lots of twisty corridors, down stairwells, and it became very, very tricky to push in with any kind of even balanced force. You needed no overwhelming force to take any facility in the original game, really. And that was a problem, because it meant that, well, it wasn't fun. And I don't want to see the same with this. What I want to see is a change in the way that these spawn buildings are situated in bases. And I want to see them connected up to defensive buildings. Buildings like the ones that we already have, the ones with multiple levels, the ones with walkways leading off them and all the rest of it. Ones that the attackers will have to capture, get troops inside so they can potentially then, again, camp the spawn room. But it's going to be more difficult, because it's going to mean that in those particular areas, aircraft and ground vehicles can't do any camping whatsoever. Because if defenders can take that building, that gives them a large kind of footprint in the base where they can then operate from. They can get people out on balconies potentially, and they can spread out into the base from there, and it gives you another kind of goal for capturing. The next thing that I'd like to see is connecting spawn buildings to buildings further away via actual tunnels, like you see at a place like the Stronghold. Ones which you can then fight through, ones with cover inside. So again, you're going underground, you're coming up somewhere else, just like with the current teleporters and those kind of things. However, there's more of a challenge, because you actually have to fight your way through rather than just magically popping up where you can be camped. Instead, you've got to fight your way there, you know what the situation is, because you've actually fought through it and taken part in it. I'd also like to see a change for the way spawn rooms are placed and the objects around them, because I don't want to see these huge sightlines leading out around the base, which, I mean, not on the base that I'm currently attacking in the video, but on other bases there can be absolutely huge sightlines. If you think about tech plants, there are some really long sightlines around those spawn rooms, which means that the attackers can lay down huge lanes of kind of covering fire. Defenders can lay down huge lanes of covering fire, which just stops them from being able to be, well, giving them much reason to push out, because they can just stay inside of there a lot of the time, which isn't fantastic. And it stops people from staying inside there and getting some easy kills. Now, one of the other things I'd like to at least try, I mean, I'm not saying it should be a permanent thing, but I'd like to see just played with perhaps, is what I call wave spawning. And if anyone played the Return to Castle Wolfenstein back in the day, the multiplayer on that had this wave mechanic where you could spawn at set times. So like every 30 seconds or so, that particular spawn point would spawn troops, and you couldn't spawn until that timer was up. Now what that meant is that a whole wave of reinforcements came from that spawn point, which gave, for starters, if anybody was camping, they had an awful lot of targets to fight, to shoot at. However, it also gave you a lot of backup as well. So you all went out as a group and you supported each other, and rather than just having the trickle of troops coming out of a spawn point as we do currently, instead what we had was this more effective wave mechanic. And I'd like to see that from potentially all spawn points. I mean, you could even do it with beacons, let alone sunderers and all the rest of it. And it also gives attackers a bit of a lull in the defenders. So again, from a sunderer, instead of having the constant trickle of people coming out of it defending it, attackers would then have a set time where they could potentially then take that thing out and plan an attack, rather than just having to deal with the flow, as it were. So it could be interesting, as I say. Alright, that's about all I've got to say about spawn buildings and spawn camping today, and obviously the current solutions and problems and all the rest of it. If you do have any questions or comments for me, please leave me a message on YouTube or on Reddit, where I'll also post this up. And if you want to check out any of the rest of my ideas about Planetside 2 and where I think it should perhaps be improved or upgraded, then have a look at my upgrade project, which I'll put the link of in the description of this. Aside from that, I'm looking forward personally to seeing what the devs do with Amerish. From what I've seen on Twitter, it looks to be at the very least a very interesting overhaul of the continent, and I'm hoping that spawn design and base layout is adjusted in it as well to make it a bit more interesting and more enjoyable. Aside from that, I've got nothing else to say, so I hope you have fun and good luck on the battlefield.
Lol.
Oh, done.